Aelara, the radiant goddess of life, moved through the universe with a grace that brought warmth and color to everything she touched. Flowers bloomed in her wake, trees reached skyward, and creatures of all kinds sprang into existence, their vibrant lives a testament to her power. Aelara reveled in the joy of creation, her heart swelling with pride and love for the world she nurtured. Mortals worshipped her, singing songs of praise and building temples in her honor, for they knew that it was Aelara who gave them the gift of life. But even as she celebrated the endless cycle of renewal, Aelara could not shake a deep-seated sorrow that gnawed at the edges of her happiness. She saw the vibrant lives she created flourish and thrive, only to eventually wither and fade. No matter how much joy she breathed into the world, it was always tempered by the inevitability of death. The knowledge that all her creations were destined to end filled her with a profound sense of loss, and the shadows of mortality cast a pall over her bright existence. Aelara tried to push these thoughts aside, immersing herself in the beauty of life. She focused on the new beginnings, the bursts and blossoms, the laughter of children, and the songs of birds. But the more she tried to ignore the darkness, the more it seemed to encroach upon her light. She began to avoid places where death had touched the world, turning her gaze from the decaying leaves in autumn and the silent stillness of winter. Yet deep down she knew that she could not escape the truth that life and death were inextricably linked. One day, as Aelara wandered through a lush forest she had created, she came across a clearing where the air was thick with the scent of decay. A single tree stood in the center, its branches bare and lifeless, surrounded by the withered remnants of what had once been a vibrant grove. Aelara felt a pang of sorrow as she realized that even her most beautiful creations could not escape the reach of death. It was in this moment of reflection that she sensed a presence, a cold, quiet energy that filled the clearing with an eerie stillness. She knew immediately who it was, and her heart filled with dread. Morgath, the god of death, had arrived. Morgoth, the god of death, was a figure cloaked in shadows, his presence a stark contrast to the vibrant world that Aelara had created. Where she brought life and light, Morgoth brought stillness and silence. He moved with a quiet grace, his touch gentle yet final. As he guided souls from the world of the living to the realm of the dead, to mortals he was a figure to be feared, for his arrival signaled the end of the earthly existence. But Morgoth did not view his role with malice. He saw it as necessary, part of the cosmic balance, a duty that he fulfilled with solemn reverence. As Morgoth entered the clearing, he noticed Aelara standing by the withered tree, her bright aura dimmed by sorrow. He had seen her from afar many times, watching as she breathed life into the world, but this was the first time their paths had crossed so directly. Morgoth could sense the fear and unease emanating from her, and he understood why. He was the embodiment of the very thing she feared most. Yet, despite her reluctance, he felt drawn to her, intrigued by the light she carried and the joy she brought to the world. Aelara turned to face Morgoth, her heart heavy with the weight of her fears. She had always avoided him, seeing him as the enemy of everything she held dear. But now, standing before him, she felt a strange sense of calm, as if the cold embrace of death was not as terrifying as she had imagined. "Why are you here, Morgoth?" she asked, her voice tinged with both curiosity and apprehension. Morgoth regarded her with a steady gaze, his dark eyes reflecting the stillness of the grave. "I am here because it is my duty," he replied, his voice deep and resonant. "All things must come to an end, Aelara. Even the most beautiful creations eventually return to the earth." Aelara's heart ached at his words, but she could not deny their truth. "But why must it be so?" she asked, her voice trembling with emotion. "Why must everything I create be destined to wither and die?" Morgoth stepped closer, his presence filling the clearing with a quiet intensity. "Because without death, there can be no life," he said softly. "It is through the cycle of life and death that the universe finds balance. Without one, the other cannot exist." Aelara looked into Morgoth's eyes and saw not the cold, merciless figure she had imagined, but a being who understood the weight of his duty, just as she did. In that moment she realized that they were not enemies, but two forces that were bound together by the very nature of their existence. And though the thought of death still filled her with sorrow, she began to see that it was not something to be feared, but a part of the eternal cycle that she herself was a part of. As the days passed, Aelara found herself thinking more and more about Morgoth and the words he had spoken in the clearing. She could not deny the truth that what he had said, that life and death were intertwined, each one giving meaning to the other. But accepting the truth was difficult for her. for it meant embracing the very thing she had always feared. Aelara continued to bring life into the world, but there was now a new awareness within her, a sense that her creations were not just fleeting moments of beauty, but part of a larger, eternal cycle. Morgoth, too, was changed by their encounter. He had always viewed his role as a solitary one, a necessary burden that he alone must bear. But meeting Aelara had shown him that there was another side to his duty, a side that was filled with light and warmth. He began to visit her more often, appearing in places where life and death converged, at the edge of a dying forest, in the final breath of a setting sun, in the quiet stillness of a winter's night. Each time they met, they would speak of their respective roles, sharing their thoughts and fears, and gradually a bond began to form between them. Despite their growing connection, Aelara still struggled with the idea of death. She could not shake the sorrow she felt for the lives that ended, for the beauty that faded away, but Morgoth was patient with her, guiding her through the doubts with gentle words and quiet understanding. He showed her that death was not an end, but a transformation, a return to the earth where new life could begin. He taught her that every death was a part of the creator cycle, and that without it, the world would become stagnant, unable to grow or change. As Aelara and Morgoth spent more time together, they began to see the world through each other's eyes. Aelara saw the peace that came with death, the release from suffering and pain, and she began to understand that it was not something to be feared, but a natural part of existence. Morgoth, in return, saw the joy and beauty of life, the endless possibilities that came with each new beginning, and he realized that his role was not just to end life, but to make space for it to flourish. Their connection deepened with each passing day, and soon they became inseparable. Aelara no longer feared Morgoth, and Morgoth no longer viewed himself as alone. Together they embraced their roles as the twin forces that sustained the universe, each one incomplete without the other. They found comfort in each other's presence, and in the knowledge that they were not just opposites, but complements, two halves of a whole, bound together by the cycle of life and death.